Hey everyone, welcome back to another unboxing video. Today we're going to be unboxing the two 2013 World Championship decks, two of the four. And here are my irresponsible spends from this week. Thank you to Lindsay who sent me the eBay links to these. I got both of these totaled like $100. So I believe this one was $40 and this one was $60. So if you know anything about Worlds decks, that's a very, very good deal for the sealed Worlds decks. The packages are damaged, but obviously I'm opening them, so I do not care. So today we're going to be opening up the Thundurus EX Team Plasma deck because I can milk that one easier, so we're opening that one today, and then we'll open up the other one in a week from now. You'll see that video where I open that up. So 2-for-1 videos. Since I'm gone on vacation, these make easy to edit videos. Now for anyone who hasn't played 2013, to kind of quantify the times, this was definitely a big basic era. Really almost every deck was around big basics, besides like the Selgor decks. And Kling Klang was another notable one that stood out. But even Kling Klang was based around big basics. Let's be real, it's Cobalion, that's the heavy lifter. But the Team Plasma deck was kind of the best at that because it was all basics, so we don't need any evolutions, we just got all the best basics in one deck, and they all work with each other. During this era, it was really easy to gust with Pokemon Catcher not requiring a flip, so it's just an item card that plays like boss's orders, so basics are pretty good because of that, because you can just play, you know, your basics and just gust up your opponent's evolutions before they get set up. And decks are kind of inconsistent. There's not a lot of onboard draw. Well, there's a lot more, I hope I draw what I need for my supporter cards, otherwise I'm in trouble. So, anyway, let's get right into this 2013 Worlds deck. Just make sure everything's good on the camera. Looks that way. We're just going to center it a little bit there and get right into it. So this is Yugo Sato, which I believe was junior finalist, if I'm right. Yes, junior finalist. So we see the deck list on the back. Tells you what you get in here. But most importantly, get the deck. We will go over the booklet because I do get to say things about each year because I do care about the history of the game. But, ooh, I say that as I rip open a decade-old package. Do get a nice pin here, which I do not have yet. So I get two of them. I'm going to send one of them to my friend. Otherwise, we'll keep the other one for the collection, because I do kind of hoard old stuff like this. Here's the booklet. It was in Vancouver for that year. The last year of the black and white focused World Championship themes, which are very nice, because I like black and white Pokemon. Not the TCG as much, but, you know. I think it was a bad time for the TCG in terms of, like, playing the game, but, like, the video games were very good. Notably, if we look at the Masters bracket here, this was the last year that Jason Klaczynski won the World Championship. Simon Rowe taking second, I believe, with Blastoise, or was he playing? I think he played Team Plasma, and I think it was James Good that played Blastoise. And Dustin Zimmerman was on the control deck, the Sableye control. So pretty neat set of decks, at least in top 4, with Jason winning with Darkrai. I do not have Darkrai, so we will not be opening that. We see some of the stuff promoting Pokemon X and Y, if only we knew how bad things would get, because, man, those were not great games. And we see kind of the Junior Vision decks here. Junior Vision was won by another Darkrai deck, so that's why we did not get Ondrej Kujel's deck printed, because he won with a similar deck to Jason Klaczynski. Now, obviously, there's differences in the lists and stuff like that, but when they get a similar deck, they try not to print it multiple times. That's why you end up with stuff like 6th place Andre Chiasen Mew VMAX printed for 2022, because like every single division was like Arceus and Palkia, so you have to find some weird, you know, deck that made top 8. Not technically weird, it's a good deck, but you know, a different deck that's not the ones you printed already. We don't see pictures here, but we see there's another Darkrai deck in top. They got 3rd place, and 4th place was another Plasma deck. Then we move on to seniors, and this is obviously as the deck will open up next week with the Rayquaza, which was 2nd place Clement and Lamberson, and it was won by a Plasma deck. So, yeah, it looks like another just TDK deck. So this is actually the one we're opening today, is it not? No, it's not. We're opening the juniors one. Not sure why they picked the juniors over that one, but whatever. And then notably, we have Senior Division 3rd place also got printed as a deck, American Gothic, which is the Gothitelle Dusknoir Selgor deck. So essentially a Selgor hits and runs into a Gothitelle, paralyzes your opponent, and you item lock them. It was a very good deck going into Nationals that year, but by the time the Worlds came around, all the decks were prepped for it, because I believe it won Nationals, if I remember correctly. Either won or took second place, so every deck was playing 2 copies of Keldeo EX to beat it. And then we saw a Black Kyurem Blastoise deck take 4th in the Seniors, so that was another very neat deck around the time. And then, of course, winner, we had Jason Glasinski with his 3rd World win with the Darkrai deck, so Darkrai Sableye, with 2 Keldeo. Like I said, people were ready for this Elgor deck. And then, of course, 2nd place, Simon Rhodes Team Plasma deck. I'm also not sure why they just didn't pick this one for that year's World deck, but whatever. And then we have the Blastoise Black Kyurem deck and the Sableye Garbodor deck. So just kind of a control strat. So we went through the results here. We're not going to go through all the credits. If you want to read this individually, these are scanned and uploaded to ptcglegends.com. I am not sponsored by them. However, I do write articles for the site, so and I gather results for the site. Also, this is weirdly specific, but if you are named Ian Whitman and you took 3rd place with Gothgore in Seniors in 2016, I do need results for PTCG Legends that are missing with your name on them, so DM me on Twitter if you somehow end up watching this video, because there's definitely results that can be filled in with your name. So, we have the TDK deck here. Let's pop it open, look at the pins and the like. I'm not sure if there's a code card. If there is, I will have already used it by the time I get this open. So, sorry, code card folks. This one is mine. But I don't remember if they do code card in these. I know there is like 2013 World sleeves online, but they might just be from the actual like Worlds tournament, not from the deck. So we get a Thundurus out here. Not too bad of a getting out. Sometimes these old decks, things can get trapped in there. If you saw a couple weeks ago, we opened up a 2007 deck, and they were trapped in a completely different plastic that was also nightmarish to get open. These are thankfully a lot easier to get open. Don't have to do a speed up cut or anything like that. But, you know, ooh, this deck has Bianca. That is, man, they did not have a lot of supporters in this format. There was like N, Juniper, and then everything else was kind of like secondhand supplies. So, looks like we do have a code card. We do get this excellent deck box. I do save these. And I will sleeve this deck after the video, so sorry guys, this is getting sleeved after the video, because we're just going to do this in one shot. Do have a code card here, so I'm going to definitely use that to get the sleeves, if they have any, online. And we have the deck. Is it sorted? It looks like it's somewhat sorted, so we can definitely work with that by just sorting out pieces as we go. Notably, we'll need to put these supporter cards to the front, so when I profile it, I like to do Pokemon, supporters, items, and then tools, stadiums, and trainers, and the like. So yeah, all of our other supporters are right here, so we'll just pull all those out. Again, 2013 is not my favorite format. I feel like things are there's a lot of luck, not a lot of skill expression, just because there's not a lot of options you're giving every turn. But there are some cool decks that I did play back then. This was one of my very first, you know, eras of the game. I started playing in like 2011. I wasn't playing competitive decks, but you know, I showed up to League with whatever and played online with my Kyurem, White Kyurem deck, so it was fun. Starting off, we have 4 copies of Deoxys. Actually, we should look at the pin first. Let's get that in the thing, because I forgot we didn't have that last week, so here is the pin. Don't want to take too much focus off the board. Nice Vancouver pin. Starting off, 4 copies of Deoxys. So, Deoxys is the engine of the Plasma deck. You'll notice if you play nowadays, this deck is very similar to the Future Box deck. So Plasma... Deoxys has the Plasma Connect ability, which makes each of your Plasma Pokemon except Deoxys EX do 10 more damage. So essentially, we just use this. It's kind of like the Iron Crown EX. We use this and have it sit on the bench. It's got a decent attack itself, but mainly it's just there for supporting others. It's also got the Helix Force attack, which does 30 plus 30. If you have a Plasma Energy attached, it does 30 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, this doesn't seem great because you're like, oh, you know, maybe hit 90 or something like that. But it's relevant because it has Psychic Weakness, so we can take out Mewtwo EX, which was still being played around this time. Not as much as the previous year where it was in, like, all of the World's decks. But Mewtwo EX was still decent, showing up in, like, Lando Garb lists around the time. Because it's a pretty good card, so... yeah, you can still hit that for weakness and take it out. With if it has a double Close energy, you will have 90 damage times 2 for weakness. We'll take it out. But very notable that he's just boosting our Plasma Pokemon. And he's like sitting on the bench. 4 copies of Kyurem from Plasma Freeze. Again, these decks kind of build themselves. They're, you put all the good plasma guys in one deck. Kyurem has 130 HP, has the Frost Spear attack, which does 30 and 30 to 1 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Seems kind of weak, but we can use this turn 1 pretty easily. And with Deoxys, you can start doing like 70 damage to the active and 30 to the bench, and that's an insanely high value for 1 energy, and then a Colress Machine attachment, which we'll talk about later. And then Blizzard Burn just does 120. This is an attack that's just going to be one-shotting. This is our main attacker, usually in the Plasma deck. Feels good to not only attack with a single prizer, but also just a Pokemon that's outputting a ton of damage. Blizzard Burn doing 120, just an insane amount, because obviously, like I said, Deoxys can boost that to 160. We'll have some other things we'll talk about later that boost it even further, so you can take 1 at KOs. Now this deck is pretty light on the Pokemon, you'll notice. We play 2 copies of Thundurus. Thundurus is here for Ride and Knuckle. It's usually our starting attacker, our starting lineup guy. You get him in there early and use Ride and Knuckle for 30, attach an energy from the discard pile to one of your bench Team Plasma Pokemon. This can accelerate special energy, so essentially just early in your game you want to discard energy with like Ultra Ball or Juniper, and then fish them out with Thundurus's Ride and Knuckle to get extra acceleration into play, and just set up a couple Kyurems to sweep the rest of the game. Also got the Thundurus Noise attack, is an underrated attack, you see it used sometimes. Takes 4 energy, so it is very expensive, but it does 90 damage, and if this Pokemon has a Plasma energy attached to it, discard an energy from the defending Pokemon. I've definitely used this attack against some decks. In the past, I haven't played Plasma in a decade, but I've definitely used this attack before because it's just a decent attack. You can get in there and just discard energy if your opponent's deck is just really reliant on it. It's not going to work against most decks, but some decks just don't have that great of energy acceleration, so you can slow them down while two-shotting them. So yeah, it also has Lightning Weakness, which is kind of cool. We can KO Squirtle, Squirtle's weak to Grass, so never mind. Either way, Ride and Knuckle, 30 damage seems weak, but again, Deoxys is going to be boosting that, so do not worry about that. Let's see if I don't think we have any more Pokemon, no. Again, decks didn't run a lot of Pokemon at these times, because there wasn't a lot of onboard draw, so you're just running the best cards, and don't worry about the rest of the cards, kind of thing. So, especially Team Plasma. Team Plasma is just, like I said, all basics. You just run like the best guys and then just don't need anything else. I do love that we get the very nice Dark Explorers Juniper. None of the black and white ones, thank goodness. This art is such a great supporter art by Kanako Ao. So Juniper, discard your hand, draw 7. It's just the best draw card at the time. Still is like the best draw card today. And at the time, there was just, I know a lot of people like to pretend that every retro format's better than standard. This retro format is not better than standard right now, because every deck just ran 4 Juniper, because why wouldn't you? Every deck just has so many, bad cards, and there's not a lot of, setup supporters in the same way that there is with Arven that are that strong, right? So I definitely prefer today's standard lineup of supporters to back then. Speaking of good supporters, though, we do have N. N is also the beautiful Dark Explorers art. Shout out to them for using these artworks instead of the very bland original prints. N is like Iono if you play nowadays. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck and then draws a card for each of the remaining prize cards. Notice that you shuffle it into the deck, not put it on the bottom, so it is worse as a draw card, worse as a disruption card than Iono, but it's still very good. I think in a way it's stronger than Iono because during this time, there's no onboard draw. Like you see this deck has no draw on board. So if you end your opponent and they just draw bad cards, well, let's go to game 2. Not a lot of recourse for that. Then we have 3 copies of Skyla. Skyla was played in a lot of decks at the time, just allowed you to kind of toolbox your decks out. But it's not a very strong card. Again, it's like Arven, but way weaker. Skyla just says, search your deck for a trainer card and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Sometimes you just want to fish a valuable trainer card out of the deck. And this is a good deck to do it in because there's a lot of little pieces to fix combos. My main issue with Skyla is, and this is kind of with all the supporters at this time, is that with there being no onboard draw, sometimes you have to Skyla for a supporter for next turn if you just don't have anything else in your hand, because a lot of times you can't safely Skyla for an item card if it's not going to win you the game kind of thing. You need to be ready for next turn. Then we have 2 copies of Colress from Plasma Storm. Honestly, I wish this deck ran 4. I feel like it should, but my own personal opinions aside, Colress shuffles your hand into your deck and then draws a card for each of your benched Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So you can shuffle and draw up to 10. The reason I think this deck should run more, I know I sometimes dog on Colress if you've ever seen me talk about the card before, because I don't think it's good in every deck, but this deck always fills its bench up. So it's really only bad in the first turn of the game. Otherwise, you're just going to have 4 Deoxys on your bench at all times, so you're usually going to be netting like 5 or more cards off Colress, so it's better than this next card, which I prefer we wouldn't play, Bianca. Draw until you have 6 in your hand. This is pretty bad, I feel like. Drawing until you have 6 in your hand isn't abysmal, but it's just not very good either. So sorry about dogging on the Worlds list. I know some people don't like when I criticize the older lists, but it's just my opinion on this list personally is that I don't think that that's a very good choice for the choice supporter. I definitely think we can do better. So anyway, let's get on to the items, because decks around this time play a lot of items. Also play a lot of supporters, to be fair. This is a lot of supporters compared to modern decks, which usually play like 12. So that's like, what, 15? 4 copies of Catcher. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon if they're active. Like I said, this is just boss's orders on an item, so evolution decks, they hate to see it. You're going to bring up them Squirtles, and you're going to ride Knuckle it for 60, and they're going to start crying because you're going to do it next turn too, so they better have 2 down. So just a really strong card. Really good in these big basic decks, since we can afford to play max copies so that you're hitting it more consistently than your opponent's hitting it on you. Next up, we have 4 copies of Hypnotoxic Laser. This is a really unique Plasma Trainer card. Colress is also a Plasma card. To be fair, you just can't see it because of the silver borders. So Hypnotoxic Laser, your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Flip a coin. If heads, it puts them to sleep. So this is another damage mod. So now our damage goes from being just Deoxys to also being a poison mod in between turns. And this also allows us to potentially chance a sleep on our opponent, which isn't super relevant to this meta because, like I said, a lot of people are running Keldeo in 2-ofs in their deck to avoid special conditions. But a lot of times before people were running the double Keldeo, you could steal a lot of games off that 25% chance of keeping your opponent asleep. Because you have to flip heads with the Hypnotoxic Laser, and then your opponent has to flip tails in between turns. So 25% chance that happens. I've lost a lot of games to 25% chances before, believe me. Next up, we have 3 copies of Colress Machine. This is aptly named. It's an item that Colress uses in the video games to make a bunch of Crustle go away. Colress Machine, though, is a very broken item card that says search your deck for a Team Plasma energy and attach it to one of your Team Plasma Pokemon. So Plasma Energy itself is completely unremarkable. We'll get there later. But essentially what the energy does is that it's a blank energy that interacts with the Team Plasma Pokemon. So you'll notice Deoxys and Thundurus' attacks are powered up when they have Plasma Energy on there. And also it's just a energy that can be accelerated with Colress Machine. So this deck keeps up attachments. You only have to like ride Knuckle like once or twice, and then it can keep up attachments with Colress Machine and attaching for turn. So just a really broken card. 3 copies of Switch. This deck does have a lot of big Pokemon retreating with Kyurem and Deoxys. The main thing that we want Switch for is that turn 1, we need to be able to get into our Thundurus if we want to ride Knuckle. So having a lot of Switch really helps with that. So you can get that turn 1 Switch into ride Knuckle, start powering up your Pokemon with it. So we'll talk about another switching card later that we also play to help with that. 2 copies of Team Plasma Ball. I don't know if I agree with this count. I'd play 4, but regardless. Team Plasma Ball searches the deck for a Team Plasma Pokemon and puts it onto your bench. Or, sorry, puts it into your hand. So just search any Plasma Pokemon. No downside. Pretty good. You'll know that it just searches anything. So frankly, I know in my list I'm working on for 2014, I'm playing 4 of these, but I guess it also has more Pokemon. There's an Absol and a Genesect in there, so there's more Pokemon to choose from. This one, I guess, just raw draw your Pokemon, you're fine. 1 copy of Ultra Ball. Everyone should know what this does if you play nowadays. Discard 2 cards from your hand, search your deck for a Pokemon, and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterward. So why do we run this over Plasma Ball? I still think it's worth running Ultra Ball endless, even if you have 4 Plasma Ball, it's still worth running like 1 or 2. And the reason is that discards energy. So if you start an Ultra Ball in your hand, you can discard energy, and ride Knuckle will accelerate them back from the discard pile. So pretty good to have. We play 1 copy of Energy Search. Search your deck for a basic energy and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterward. Essentially, this isn't super great, but with Skyla, allowing us to search any trainer card, it can turn a turn we wouldn't be attacking into a turn we will be attacking, because Skyla can find an energy for our Thundurus. I think if you don't play Skyla in the deck, then you don't play Energy Search. But and it's still not amazing, honestly. It's definitely not the best use of a deck slot, but I definitely get what it's here for, because Skyla essentially makes it so you have 4 outs to that Energy Search for your energy. 1 copy of Computer Search. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Search your deck for any card from your deck. So this is obviously broken. This is an A-Spec, so we can only play 1 A-Spec per deck. If you're around nowadays, you're familiar with A-Specs. However, back then, there was really the 2 dominant A-Specs that we're seeing play in almost every deck. Computer Search and Dowsing Machine. Some formats, Dowsing Machine was better. The formats where it's more aggressive, Computer Search is obviously better. So there's like 2 or 3 formats where like Dowsing Machine is the better choice, and then most formats Computer Search really is. And in this format, things are aggressive, so we play Computer Search. So very good. Allowing us to find any card, discarding 2 cards, who cares? I'll just find a supporter off it and then get new ones, right? So very aggressive, very good A-Spec. Glad they didn't bring it back, though. I like that they're spicing it up with new A-Specs, even if I don't love Prime Catcher. 2 copies of Floatstone, one of the best tool cards ever printed. Pokemon this card's attached to has no retreat cost. Just absolutely broken. I mean, like, just broken. Free retreat on whatever you throw it on. Essentially just like a copy of Switch, which honestly makes me just wish they ran, like, 4 of these, because there's no other competing tool cards in the deck. So I feel like you should run more, but, you know, I'm going to stop questioning this list. It's fine. It just free retreat's broken, gets us more opportunities to retreat into Thundurus for that turn 1 Ride Knuckle. That should tell you how much you need to know. 2 copies of Verbank. Verbank is a stadium card that puts 2 damage counters more on poison Pokemon in between turns. So poison goes from 10 damage in between turns to 30 damage. And that racks up quickly. And essentially just a damage mod for our deck, because we are playing that Hypnotoxic Laser, which poisons our opponent. So now we get a plus 30 buff to our attacks with Verbank City Gym, which is really good, honestly. Really good to get that bonus damage in there. Allows us to hit Ride Knuckle very easily, hitting like 60, even up to like 100 damage on turn 1. Like I said, this deck can just get crazy starts if you get that turn 1 Ride Knuckle, or turn 1 Frost Spear even, with a Colress Machine to attach. Speaking of energy cards, we have 4 copies of Prism Energy. Prism Energy is a special energy that counts as any type of energy as long as it's attached to a basic Pokemon. Why did they make this for basic Pokemon only? God only knows, but it's pretty good. Essentially, we can discard this and it acts as a Rainbow Energy, and we don't take any damage counters unlike normal Rainbow Energy. So just a very strong card in this deck that uses 3 different types of attackers. Next up, we have 4 Plasma Energy. We kind of already talked about it, but Plasma Energy has no effect at all besides providing colorless energy. But it is a Team Plasma card, and it interacts with Colress Machine, which accelerates it from the deck. And it works with these attacks right here. So you can, mainly in this deck, there's not a lot of extra effects that we're using. It's more for just the acceleration from the deck, but it's still pretty dang good. It's getting extra energy attachment on an item card broken. Then we have 3 copies of Water Energy. Unfortunately, these are the very mediocre looking black and white unnumbered energy. I do like the black and white base ones. These ones are just a little lame looking, but that's fine. 3 copies of Water means we have plenty of attachments for Kyurem to use as Blizzard Burn, because this deck, unlike the 2014 version, doesn't have Rainbow Energy, so it does have to get a little bit more creative with its energy than just 4 Rainbow, 4 Prism, 4 Plasma. So you gotta play some cute ones like Water. And of course we play 2 copies of Lightning, because our other attacker, Thundurus, really needs those Lightning energy. So that has been Team Plasma, Ultimate Team Plasma deck is the actual name of it, from 2013 Worlds. Next week, be sure to come back. We'll be opening and deck profiling the Ray Eels deck. I'll be going a little quicker because we're not going to go through the booklet and all that like we did this one, but just a crazy time to play the game. Very similar to nowadays, but just so much less consistent, so much more luck-based than it was nowadays. So definitely a different time, but I'm glad to get these decks for cheap. It was just really fun, and I, of course, play these on the channel. So expect to see a 2013 video in the next year or so on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.